everybody, and welcome to the House of Mario, the South Australian Nintendo podcast that is backed by a 120 Power Star rating. I'm your host, Drew Agnew, and the doors to episode 234 are open. This week on the show, a brand new Pokemon Wiglett has been unveiled, and I'm gonna slurp him up. Oh, he looks delicious. Put a bit of salt on him. Very nice. We'll finally get to see a teaser trailer for Illumination's upcoming Super Mario Bros. Movie, and in Reggie's Rec Room, I'll share why I got into Nintendo podcasting in the first place. I hope you're all going well, and I'm really looking forward to diving into this episode. I've done solo shows before, whether it was because I couldn't find a guest or because I just felt like it. Honestly, I find it a lot of fun just to sit here in front of the microphone and the camera and yammer on to you guys. It's a lot of fun, but going into this, I was very nervous. If you've missed the update, I've put out a major update on the podcast feed, basically going over that this show is now a solo podcast, and that Bryce DeWitt, my best friend and just partner in crime as far as the last 5 years of the House of Mario goes. He's stepping down. We will be doing stuff, whether it's limited run or something else in the future. But as far as the House of Mario goes, it just didn't seem to be lining up, unfortunately. Who wants to be an adult? Being an adult's no fun at all. We should just be going to school recording the House of Mario instead. Well, I don't want to go to school now, but say you know what I mean. Because I don't want to be a 28-year-old recording a Nintendo show at the high school, and all the kids are like, "What the hell is this man doing?" I'm like, I don't know. I should be at work. What am I doing here? But yeah. Going into this, I was very nervous. I just, want to sort of make the best show I can. And I know a lot of people might not be into a solo show, or maybe they'll prefer it. It's all up in the air as far as it goes at the moment. It's up to me to keep the ship going and hopefully keep you entertained and inform you about all the Nintendo news and the upcoming things going on. But I'm really looking forward to it. I really am. But the night that I put up the major update, I was really nervous, to the point where I was in bed. It was about, I don't know, say 11 or 12 o'clock my time. And I'm in bed. My wife's like, "Are you okay? You're breathing really weird." I'm like, "Yeah, I think I'm having like a semi-anxiety attack. I don't know what's going on." And I want to thank everybody that sent me a message or a little nice thing on socials or on the Discord or whatever. I really appreciate any feedback or thoughts about what's going on. I think everybody had similar thoughts where it's like, it's sad to see Bryce step down, but it's good that the House of Mario is still going on and that the show will continue and the community will continue to thrive, and we'll keep going along and hopefully excited for what's to come. And I want to thank, some people in particular just about them sending me a message, because I really appreciate it. Especially that night, I got a message from Compi, who's a part of our Discord community, and I really appreciated the kind words that come from him. That was when I was like, "Oh God," like I'm literally sweating in bed, and I got that message, and it was just so nice to read. So Compi, thank you very much. That message means more to me than you could ever just comprehend. It's I really did appreciate it. Also, a really nice message in the morning from Brendan Myers. Brendan, thank you so much. You've been a great supporter of the House of Mario over the last few months, and I really appreciate it. And also from Seth Sturgill. Man, thank you very much. Seth's been on the show before. He's been announced as a brand new host for the Nintendo Drive, so going to be hearing him in a few places, so that's pretty cool. But Seth, just a really nice guy, so thank you very much for the message. I got messages and all that from other people and other means and that as well, but just the early days when I was, feeling nervous about it all, they're the ones that really sunk in. So guys, thank you so much. Appreciate it. And let's move on and make a kick-ass Nintendo show. I cannot wait to get into it. And for the most part, this episode will be a similar structure to what you've heard before on the House of Mario from solo podcasting. And over time, we will change it and adapt it to what I find fun and what you guys find interesting, etc., etc. But I think for the most part, I quite enjoy how it's laid out at the moment. We've got Sakurai's phone booth coming back where people can put in like their own messages. and we've got a few to play on the show. So I think that's a lot of fun. I'd like to implement people's questions and people's voice memos and that throughout the whole show. I think that'll be awesome. At the moment, we just got them at the end for the one segment. But yeah, going forward, we're going to be implementing some changes like that. So that's going to be pretty cool. And also, Encore at the House of Mario, that's where I do, I guess, have guests in to talk about that. And typically, when I started that was a solo podcast, and I started that show, so I did have an outlet still if the House of Mario couldn't record that week or whatever. But now that it's flipped, it kind of doesn't make a whole lot of sense to make you go somewhere else or whatever for that. So Encore at the House of Mario will live on the main feed on podcast services, so you will see them pop up. They'll be pretty clearly described. They'll have Encore at the start, and they'll also have the bonus episode tag on them. They won't be a numbered episode. So they'll be there. They'll also be on their own feed. So if you go to Apple Podcasts or Spotify, you can still find Encore at the House of Mario. If you just want those types of episodes, you can find them there. And it's no skin off my back to keep that going as well, because it's only like literally a click of a button on Captivate, where I host all the podcasts, just to keep them on both. So I hope you enjoy that change. I asked in the Discord, like, should I keep them separate? Should I put them together? And just from the handful of responses I got, it was kind of like a 50-50 split. So I'm like, all right, well, I don't think there's any wrong decision as far as it goes. But it's all there. And we actually got an Encore at the House of Mario up at the moment as well. Had my good friends Buddy Watson and Paul James talking all about PAX Australia. It's under a week until PAX Australia happens. I'm going to be going there on the Saturday. Very much looking forward to it. We'll talk about some of that a little bit later. But it's all exciting stuff. So I thought, since we've got a brand new format here, a brand new way of doing the show, and I've also noticed like we've got like a handful of new listeners and stuff interacting with us on Twitter over the last couple of months, and I haven't really sat down and be like, all right, this is who I am. So, just for the short of it, I guess, my name's Drew Agnew. I'm a rural farmer from South Australia. At the moment, I'm shearing and crutching and all that. I used to work in hospitality for a long time, but now I do not, because I'm sick of it, to be honest. I'm sick of working the weekends. Working the weekends sucks. Look, don't do it. If you don't have to, you don't do it. But massive Nintendo fan since I've been about 9 years old. Started off with the Game Boy Advance SP, and since then had every single Nintendo platform there was. First actual console was the Wii, and went on from there. Also got into PlayStation with the PlayStation Vita, PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5. Really like the PlayStation consoles as well. And I have Xboxes for Game Pass, pretty much. But I love like Forza Horizon. That's probably my favorite Xbox series. So yeah, that's me in a very, 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 very condensed way there. But also just with the show. So going forward, this is what I want the House of Mario to be. And it's largely the philosophy I've had in the past for the show. But I've never really laid it out what I want the House of Mario to be. So I've got some dot points here. I'm just going to go through them. But the first one is probably the most important one. Is just that everybody is welcome. Doesn't matter your religious beliefs, your race, your political or alignment or whatever. It doesn't matter to me, as long as you're respectful and loving of others, and that you have a burning passion for video games. And that's all that matters. I see some, I follow some podcast networks that have outright told people that they are not welcome if they believe in this certain, way of thinking or whatever. And look, that's fair enough if that's the type of community you want to cultivate. But here at the House of Mario, it's just all about the video games. And look, if you've got certain political beliefs in America, it's like, well, I'm Australian, so for the most part, it doesn't align with doesn't matter to me anyway. But yeah, that's the main thing. Everybody's welcome here. The doors are always open, no matter who you are. Just be respectful and kind to others. And I want to create a fun and entertaining show. I think just through my personality and me jumping onto camera, I hope that works for you. If it doesn't, well, I can't please everyone. So that's that's that. And of course, share our love for video games. This is a place, that we built because we love games. And more specifically for me, I love Nintendo. I love handhelds. I love all of that Nintendo represents. So I think it's awesome that we can do this each week and hopefully get together to share our love for gaming. But I also want to have like a critical eye for games. And that doesn't mean just hyper analyze every single little aspect and just, be negative about everything. But at the end of the day, these products are, $80 games here in Australia. They are products sold by, a massive corporation. And, I don't, for things like, Mario Strikers and things like that, I don't, it's just whatever. Like I want to like a critical eye and like really like think about these games as like whether it's like thinking about them as art or just a fun video game or a commercial product. I want to have like a more of a critical eye on some of these things like going forward, especially like with review discussions and things like that. And also just learn together. Somewhere where we can come together, learn about Nintendo. And that goes for me as well. Like, I obsess about Nintendo, and over the years I've learnt a lot, whether it's through, just reading Reggie's book or just playing the games themselves. I've, I guess, accrued a lot of knowledge, much like you guys out there. But we all have something we can learn about Nintendo, and I think it'll be a fun place to do that together. And hopefully we can, cultivate a community that, wants, first for knowledge as far as Nintendo and video games goes, and understanding development and the marketing, and just be aware of all of these things. And I think that adds to the fun. So there's some of the podcasts I enjoy the most as well, where you are getting like a bit of an education out of it. And I know education, it sounds a bit of a dirty word, especially to me. I wasn't like I wasn't amazing at school. So when I hear education, I'm like, ugh. I still have nightmares about having to go back and redo year 12 because of failing maths. I didn't fail math, thankfully, but that is an antithesis of a nightmare for me, is going back to school. So let's stop using the word education. Let's learn. And if you're in school, buddy, do your homework, mate. Do your homework. So that's what I want the show to be. And I think we can achieve that together. So absolutely. Let's move into the Guru Geek Out. And this is going to be a big segment for me going forward, because this is where I can come and share something I'm excited about, or give someone a shout out who I think is doing an awesome job, with whether it's in our community or outside with their podcast or creative work or whatever. And over the past few months, it's never been more clear as to why we do the Guru Geek Out. We started the Guru Geek Out because Nintendo Guru was an absolutely shining beacon of light within the Nintendo community. And his content was fun and entertaining and fantastic. And I came across his content with If We Ran Nintendo. He did that with his co-host Sean Capri. And they did basically this segment at the start of their shows. They gave people shout outs, they geeked out. And Bobby always wanted to call it Geek Outs. Sean wanted to call it, Bobby wanted to call it shout outs. And Sean wanted to call it Geek Outs. And for like the alliteration's sake, I've called it Geek Outs, but it can be Guru shout outs. It can be whatever. But it's never been more clear why we do this, because over the last few months, I've been listening to a lot of Bobby's content, and it's only been now where I've actually been able to go back and have like a serious listen, apart from 5 minutes here and 5 minutes there, just to hear, Bobby's voice and what, his philosophy as far as his podcast creation goes, because people always looked at Bobby and sort of laughed. He had like Nintendo Talk, he had Nintendo Planet, he had If We Ran Nintendo. After 3 years, changed that to A Cup of Joe and Nintendo. Still with Sean, but just a bit of a different format for the show. And it was people like, how many bloody Nintendo shows can you have? You know what? Including me, because I'm thinking like how much work it takes to do the House of Mario, amongst, just other life commitments and stuff. I'm like, imagine if I had the House of Mario, then I had Nintendo backflips and Nintendo. Like I was like all these shows all based around Nintendo. And, Bobby had a different take on each show. One was like news focused and one was like a daily show and another one was like a sit back with Sean. And they're all sort of different enough to justify existing. But, it was always a funny thing. But it wasn't until like when I'm thinking about where should the House of Mario go from here and, thinking about a big change like this where it is just me in front of the microphone and the camera discussing certain topics and going through the news and that. And it's because of Bobby and the lessons that I learned from him. But I'm like, all right, we can take this step and we can do something else that will suit Bryce and I better, that will work for our schedules and I guess our creative endeavors and all of that. So it was sort of a big lesson learning that from him, and also the opposite end of the scale as well. And I remember this very clearly. The first time I had Bobby on the House of Mario, we were discussing a Nintendo Direct, I think, and we ended the podcast and I was like, we were just talking and Bobby brought up his divorce. And he said like, never prioritize this over, wife, family, kids, etc. Because he just went so hard into this because he loved it so much. And I think a lot of people that put a lot of themselves into something understand that it can be easy to be like, all right, I'm podcasting Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, or whatever. You just and ultimately he lost his wife because he wasn't spending enough time, whatever. So that's been a lesson as well. Like as much time as this takes, you can't let it take too much, because in 5 years' time, if I'm still doing a podcast, but my wife and son aren't under my roof anymore, what does it matter? So a lot of lessons, man, I've learned from him, and also just don't be afraid to give out compliments to people, because for me, like I love a lot of people's work and stuff within the community that we've got here podcasting, and honestly, sometimes I don't give the compliments I feel like I should, because I know for me, I guess I'm reflecting myself onto others, because I when I was growing up, I had no self-confidence whatsoever. It's actually weird that I'm doing this because, like, recording myself video and audio, putting myself out there, because, yeah, that's just the power of games, I guess, just the obsession with that, putting myself out there. But he had he just never held back. Every show he went on, he's like, you guys are doing a fantastic job, awesome stuff. And I think he just really built up a lot of goodwill from just telling it how it is. Even if it wasn't that good, just be honest and let them know, and they can improve. And it's all good feedback. And I remember Bobby saying very nice words about the House of Mario, and little old Drew podcasting for 2 or 3 years. That meant a lot. So through this segment, that's what I want to do. I want to build other people up. I want to let them know that they're doing an awesome job. Even like stuff like if I watched a great movie, like let's just get excited about this certain thing that I might not bring up because it isn't Nintendo or even gaming related. So like I said, never been clearer why I'm doing this segment for Guru Geek Outs. Absolutely fantastic. And one of the things I just really want to say is just, a thank you to everybody that, sent me a message or gave me feedback in the Discord, or even if you didn't reach out, but you're listening to this, thank you so much for being on this journey with me at the House of Mario. And let's continue to kick ass and make an awesome Nintendo podcast. But the shout out I want to give this week is to my good friends Brendan White and Ali Hart at the Hungry Gamers. They recently celebrated their 300th episode, which is an amazing triumph. It really is. And they celebrated with an episode just talking about stuff. They started off talking about their favorite ice cream flavors, and Brendan White. And for those that don't know, we were a part of the 8-Bit Collective must have started in 2018 for a couple of years. And Brendan, he wanted to bring in Australian podcasts to make this one group, to be stronger and better together and collaborate and all this type of thing. And it was a fantastic idea. And with Brendan's help, we were really able to, kick ass the next couple of years. Bryce and I, we went to AvCon, which is a video game and anime convention here in South Australia. And we wanted to do interviews on the floor for the podcast. And we said, oh, how do you do that? we got microphones at home, but holy shit, we're not taking all that to a convention. And Brendan's like, I got this little portable recorder. I'm like, oh, that's cool. He's like, you're more than welcome to use it. So he express sent it down from, I think it was in Queensland at the time, and let us borrow it for a few months until PAX. We gave it back to him. And eventually, I love that little recorder actually so much. I actually went and bought one myself a year or so later when I had the money for it. But just like the niceness and generosity of Brendan White is just, it blew me away. It really did. It's a similar way to Bobby. Just like Brendan's willing to help us. You know, we've only been podcasting for basically a year at that point. And we made some great friends through John O'Peck and Brendan and Buddy and Dash, and yeah, just it actually become a pretty big group. And unfortunately, it did fall apart because it kind of I know like Brendan was really busy at the time, so there wasn't really like a clear direction where things were going. And also, as far as like collaborations and that were going, that's what I was really personally excited for when it came to the 8-Bit Collective, was just the collaboration between all the creators. And it didn't really happen that much. I didn't really have anyone else that was interested in Nintendo to actually come on the show. That was a little bit weird. So it petered out in the end. And now 8-Bit are doing their own thing with the Hungry Gamers and a bunch of other shows. They're doing game shows and food-based shows and putting in work from time to time from John O'Peck. And yeah, they're just great people. So congratulations on 300 episodes, Hungry Gamers. And here's to another 300 more. So yeah. That's the Guru Geek Outs. Let's move on to some game impressions. So I've only been playing a little bit the last couple of weeks. Nothing too much. Just want to touch on Splatoon 3. Been really enjoying it. Participated in the Splatfest and just been playing Turf Wars. Nothing too much. But I just really want to comment on the campaign. I'm really enjoying the campaign. And typically Splatoon 1 and Splatoon 2, I don't know if I ever finished the campaigns. If I did, I can't remember. Like, they were kind of forgettable to me in some ways. But just the way the Splatoon 3 campaign is set out, that, you know, you're basically going collecting the... what's the little man's called? I forgot the little salmon man's. But basically collecting, like, those eggs. And that's the currency where you unlock, like, get rid of the goo off the map. You unlock more levels to go into. And it's really sort of triggering my OCD. I can't really move on to the next area without clearing it all. So I've cleared like the whole first area, and now I'm just moving on to the second one. But for me, Splatoon, it's always been this weird thing because when I'm playing it, I'd rather probably just jump into the actual multiplayer. And it's something like with Call of Duty that I never understood why you would buy that game and not play the single player campaign and just play multiplayer. But with Splatoon, I'm like, yeah, I get it. I just want to jump in and, you know, get like the 3-minute Dobertine hit. Yeah, you know what I mean. Just like get that 3-minute match in and, you know, move on from there. And yeah, I'm enjoying it. I'm not playing with like too many weapons at the moment. I've only been playing with the Splattershot Junior, but I went to go and try some other weapons, but it would not connect to the server, and I was having connection issues. And apparently, you have to be online to buy weapons. I'm like, okay, so I moved on from that. So I'm just playing with the same weapon apart from in the actual campaign itself. So yeah, gonna be have to try and finish that this month before we Jesus, before all these games come out. October is the most insane month I've seen in a long time for games. But apart from that, I've actually re-downloaded Mario Kart Tour. And this is a game I said I would go back to once they get rid of the gacha mechanic and give it a go. And I guess another reason why I was interested in the game is because I actually got a brand new iPhone. I got the iPhone 14 Pro. So, you know, a brand new toy. I thought I'd play around with it, see what it's all about, put some games on it. And what better way to, you know, play with your new phone as a brand new Mario Kart game, I guess. So, downloaded it. tried it out, and for what it is, I'm actually having a fair bit of fun with it, to be honest. I played a lot of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe in its time, and even with the new DLC tracks, I've played them to death now as well. So kind of looking for whatever brand new Mario Kart experience is out there. And Mario Kart Tour, it gets updated a fair bit, and for the most part, I'm really ignoring just everything else that's going on apart from just jumping into a quick race. I think it is satisfying that you do your dailies and all that type of thing, the stuff that really tries to hook you and make you press on the app to engage with the content and hopefully get you to spend money in that. But just like how the actual systems work out is certain characters, certain carts, certain gliders will give you different, bonuses on particular tracks. Like for example, if you have the correct vehicle, you'll get 3 item slots every time you hit an item box. But if you don't, you might just get 1. And like that stuff, I'm like, I don't need this in Mario Kart. This is obnoxious. Like honestly, I don't like how this mobile file location has hit it. Even though it's a mobile game, I'd much rather it just be basic Mario Kart, and maybe with like microtransactions here for costumes and a battle pass, and look whatever you want to put into it, just kind of, even in some ways, Fortnite-ify Mario Kart. But no, it's just full-on mobile phone game, which they are, getting rid of the gacha mechanic. But the actual gameplay itself, I'm actually kind of enjoying it because, with the young one at the moment, he's slowly becoming more and more of a handful as he gets more, agile. And he's in his walker at the moment, so he's just walking around and you've got to keep an eye on him. And he's very curious about the cabinet I've got the PlayStation 5 in. I'm like, yeah, maybe stay away from that. So a lot of the time I'm like, all right, I got a bit of free time. Phone's already there. I probably already got a podcast playing because they seem to be the best medium for being alert to other things, being able to get up. And I guess the Switch is just like that little bit too big, or I don't know. But the phone is just what I seem to be reaching for. And instead of going on Twitter or Facebook or wasting time with pointless social media, I think Mario Kart Tour's been kind of good in that aspect. But the gameplay, it feels okay. I'm playing it just vertical, so I want to play it just like one hand. I don't really want to put it horizontal because that was an update a little while ago. But just basically to control the game, you got like a little button down the bottom and you can steer that way. And then if you touch anywhere else on the screen, you do a power slide, which I think works okay. And I'm getting more and more used to the controls and to throw items back and forward. You swipe up, you swipe down. I'm enjoying it. I'm going to stick with it. They're not going to get any of my money. I'm just going to do dailies and slowly do whatever. I could not care less if I don't have the correct character or the correct cart. I just want to play Mario Kart easily on my phone, and if they're a little bit more generous and a little bit more, I guess, forgiving with all of this mobile allocation, I'll probably be more than happy to spend money here and there and eventually, spend more than the actual Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Like, honestly, I probably would, but when they're just greedy right off the bat, I just write it off. Same with like Pokemon Masters. I thought that was a really cool concept. I love all the trainer characters in Pokemon. And the whole thing where they got different characters coming out with different Sigma pairs, and they got a story going on that's updating constantly, and voice acting and all that. Like it kind of sounds fantastic, but the way they set it up, just as far as how they monetize it, I'm like, I'm not going to waste my time. I'm really not. So similar situation here, but I actually have re-downloaded Pokemon Masters on my phone as well. Give it a go. I would like to enjoy it. So maybe there's a point where my brain just switches off and you're like, yeah, well, take $200. I hope not. I can't afford that at the moment. But yeah, that's the games I've been playing at the moment. Nothing too serious, just simple, casual, jump in, jump out games, especially Mario Kart Tour. But there's going to be a heap of stuff this month that I'm nervous about. There's Nier Automata, there's Persona 5 Royal, which they're 2 games I want to play that I didn't play back in 2017. Obviously Mario vs. Rabbids, Sparks of Hope, and there's other stuff too. I can't remember off the bat. I'm trying to just like look straight ahead and kind of ignore it. Just put my visors up and not not see it too much. But yeah. So yeah, that's what I've been playing. Let's move into the news. So this is just some smaller news tidbits before we jump into the media stories. The first one is that Splatoon 3's Splatfest has been decided and Team Gear won. And a little bit upset about this. I think when I first initially saw all the teams, so it was Gear, Grub, or Fun. And I initially said to myself, oh, I'm going to pick Grub because you take some food with you. It's a good idea. You take some tinned veggies, take some baked beans, and you can all store it. You can ration it out. It will be a good time. It'll be a good time. You won't go hungry. A lot of people decided Gear because I think Gear is honestly like, if you're seriously making a decision about what to take, like, you know, you've got a decision, the plane hasn't crashed yet, but you know it's going to happen. What are you going to take to a deserted island? And Gear is 100% the answer, because if you, like, you know, the saying goes, like, if you give a man a fish, I'm just so hung up that I butchered that so bad. But if you give a man a fish, you'll feed him for a day. If you give a man a fishing rod, you'll feed him for life, because he can use it and get his own fish. It's very similar. You take a bow and arrow, you take a fishing rod, you take a shovel. All these things would be just life-saving bits of equipment. Even like a shovel, just like, all right, let's make a base, and you need a shovel, you need all this stuff. So definitely Gear. And that was Fun. And at the moment when I was picking my team, Fun was winning. So I'm like, well, Grub is getting just destroyed, so I'm going to go Fun. And it seemed like Fun was going well until, I don't know, it got narrowly beaten by Gear. So congratulations, anyone who chose Team Gear. That was the correct decision as far as a real life situation goes. But when I sat down on the weekend, I'm like, oh, I don't want to think about all this stuff. I just want to have fun. I want to be on Team Fun. So there we were. Also on, I guess, the Aussie My Nintendo store, you can get Animal Crossing homewares, pens, and other exclusive items from Nintendo Tokyo store. So that's pretty cool. So if you want to check out some of this stuff, it's just literally Animal Crossing Tupperware. But I know some of these like cozy YouTubers might actually be kind of into this, just as far as like the whole aesthetic in their kitchen and that. I'm just a dude. I get all my Tupperware probably from Big W or Kmart. I'm not too worried about Animal Crossing Tupperware, especially here, like the prices. So looks like the multi pen, which is black and red, is $8.50. So yeah, well, that's an expensive pen, but it might be a fantastic pen. You've also got like Animal Crossing. You got a canister. It's $22 for the canister. And it goes up to $28 for a large canister. There you go. So check that out. We also got a random update to Skyrim. So it's now Skyrim Anniversary Edition. And just out of nowhere, just here it is. The Anniversary Edition is now on Switch. So that's great. It's a $30 upgrade here in Australia if you want the new features, which I heard includes fishing. So cool. Personally, I've got the physical edition of Skyrim, but for $30, I'm not going to upgrade. It's all good. And last off, just for this quick news bite, is that the Pokemon Company has teamed up with Ed Sheeran for a song called Celestial, which I listened to, and the song sounds like an Ed Sheeran song. It's a good song. It's got Pikachu's cry from Pokemon Red and Blue at the start, and a few other Easter eggs in the actual song itself. And I really like Ed Sheeran. I think he's just a really likable guy, and I quite enjoy his music. I think he's a fantastic pop artist. So just a really kind of a no-brainer for Pokemon Company to team up with, considering they've done Katy Perry and Post Malone. Post Malone's a funny one. I love Post Malone as well, and I think his Pokemon song was the best because it actually had sampling of, actual Pokemon music in the actual song. But yeah, great song, but the music clip is really cool. It's basically him waking up and all the Pokemon coming to life from his Game Boy, and it's just illustrated in this really odd looking way, just like with all the Pokemon that just have dots as eyes, and Lapras has just like a big monobrow, and it's awesome. It's a nice little team up. It's great. Sort of Pokemon Company are trying to get into, I guess, the pop culture discussion as far as all this goes. So pretty cool. Go and check that out on YouTube or whatever. Let's get into the actual news itself and discuss some news. Yeah.
Woohoo! Yeah! Pika, pika! Is that all? I fight for my friends. Yahoo!
still. So after a long time of not knowing what the hell is going on, this week we're actually going to get a teaser trailer for the Super Mario Bros. Movie coming early October. I mean, we actually got a release date as well, so pretty cool. I'm going to read this from Vooks.net, and we'll discuss the article from there. So a teaser trailer for the upcoming Super Mario Bros. Movie will be released early next month, well, which is now actually. The trailer will premiere at New York Comic Con on the 6th/7th. Thanks to daylight savings time, things are going to get weird once again. That's true, actually. Yeah. Universal Pictures also reconfirmed the American release date of April 7th, 2023, while Universal Australia just confirmed its March 30th release here the other day. Huh. Really? Are we getting it before America? Well, I'm actually kind of, I'm flabbergasted by that. That's cool. All right. Nice. Suck it. That could still shift around, though odds are still low on that. Oh, well, there you go. Well, I'm really excited about that. So, when's the time here? So, the 7th of October, 6:30 a.m. Australian Central Daylight Time for me here in South Australia. So, that's pretty cool. All right. Wow, I'm actually just taken back by that news. I didn't read far enough until we actually got an Australia date, which is like a week before the States. And sometimes that happens, but very, very rarely. So yeah, well, look at that. We can get like a spoiler cast and all that up in time for the American release. Look at that. Wow. So yeah, and we got a question from Luke in the Discord as well. Any predictions or thoughts about the upcoming teaser for the Mario movie? And I've got high expectations for this movie, to be honest. And I think what I'm thinking about is like the Mario sort of world is just so rich and animated and gorgeous. But typically, like the most beautiful we have seen it has been like Mario Kart 8 Deluxe or in some ways Mario Odyssey, but I think just like the animations of like the slow-mo when you watch like the Mario Kart TV, you see like Mario and Luigi's moustache just like flapping in the wind and all of that. I'm really looking forward to seeing this movie just with Illumination's prowess and animation and seeing like the Mushroom Kingdom just full of so much personality and so much going on in the backgrounds and all the characters interacting together. Because when you're playing like Mario Odyssey or like a 2D Mario game or whatever, you don't see all the enemies interact, or you don't see like, obviously Bowser come and interact with the Goombas and what the Goombas are thinking of Bowser and all of that. And even seeing sparks of hope from Ubisoft. I think Ubisoft, as far as animation and bringing these characters' personalities to life, I think they've done it better than any Nintendo Mario made game. And not to say that, those games are better than Mario Odyssey or Mario Galaxy or any of these just amazing titles from the Tokyo team, but it's really made me imagine what the possibilities could be just with an animated movie. I think it's going to be really exciting. But as far as predictions go, I don't really have any predictions for story or whatever, but I would probably assume that Bowser isn't going to be the bad guy in this. I think he's going to be like a part of the team, like with Donkey Kong, with, all the characters, Mario, Luigi, et cetera, et cetera. I think they're all going to sort of, team up together and take on another bad guy. But yeah, I'm just here for the ride. I hope it's an entertaining movie for adults as well as kids. I hope it's one of those titles or movies, not titles. But yeah, no, I've got big hopes for it anyway. Next up, we've got a brand new Pokemon. Its name is Wiglett. And it's got no relation to Diglett at all, which is a cool new concept. And just to anyone that is staying away from the leaks, which you should, I couldn't help it at one stage, and it wasn't leaked, but the information was leaked that a Pokemon that resembles Diglett but is not going to be a regional form would be announced at some point, would be a part of the brand new game Scarlet and Violet. So okay, that sounds interesting. And here it is. It's a brand new Pokemon that basically looks like Diglett, but it's not. And this is a cool new concept in the world of Pokemon, and that the designers can utilize. I think it's pretty cool because when like Alolan forms were introduced in Pokemon Sun and Moon, it was a cool idea because you were able to make a old Pokemon new again and change it up. And it's, for the developers, it's pretty much a win-win. You know, you take Vulpix and change its type and make it look a bit more feminine, and chuck in a fairy type, an ice type, and call it a day. And we all love it because it, you know, harkens back to a nostalgic Pokemon. And instead of being like, oh, look, that's just that's another trash bag. It's like, well, in Generation 1, there was just a bit of sludge that evolved into a bigger bit of sludge. You know, Grimer and Muck. No one poo-poos them, literally. But just a bit of a description for Wiglett. Boasting an exceptional sense of smell, Wiglett is able to pick up senses from over 60 feet away. It has a skittish disposition and is constantly curious of its surroundings. When it notices the scent of other Pokemon, Wiglett burrows into the sand to conceal itself. Wiglett pokes a part of its body out of the sand to feed in the ocean. It is still unclear what the rest of its body hidden in the sand is like or how long it will be. It is said that Wiglett's resemblance to Diglett may be a mere coincidence, a result of its adaptation to its environment. And it's cool too because it's also just like a pure water type. So I guess, just complete opposite to Diglett. So pretty nice. We're getting closer to the Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, and I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a good time. Next up, we got a content creator who's been making Super Mario Bros. 5 for 7 years in Mario Maker 1 and then Mario Maker 2. So this is from My Nintendo News. Content creator Mikey Mike, otherwise known as Metroid Mike 64, has recently announced on Twitter that his 7-year project titled Super Mario Bros. 5, which began life in 2015, with the release of the original Super Mario Maker, is now complete and ready to play in Super Mario Maker 2 on the Nintendo Switch family of systems. Are they part of marketing or what? Metroid Mike 64 said on Twitter that his personal project Super Mario Bros. 4 features 40 full levels spread across 8 worlds. These contain 24 courses built from Super Mario World, 14 from Super Mario Bros. 3, and 2 courses from Super Mario Bros. He went on to say that there are no courses from the later New Super Mario Bros. U or Super Mario 3D World. And if you want to check it out, you can use the course code 0G9XN4FNF. So go and check that out. I haven't played it yet, but it's definitely something I want to boot up. I still have Mario Maker installed on Switch, so I definitely need to go and give this a go. I've heard nothing but good things about it, and basically that Mikey Mike has just kind of nailed what he needed to do as far as creating like a sequel to one of the best 2D Mario games of all time. So pretty cool. Got some Powerade here, and I'm really glad because when you're just constantly talking to yourself, it draws you out a little bit. Sometimes you just need to sit back and salivate a bit. Next up, we got a brand new version of E3, which is going to kick off next year on the 13th of June in the States. And it's interesting because basically their ReedPop are completely changing what E3 are doing and trying to bring back some old ideas that the ESA have implemented in the past. So this is also from My Nintendo News. We all thought that E3 was pretty much defunct due to the worldwide COVID-19 pandemic and the rise in streaming, with software and hardware companies doing their own presentations online. However, ReedPop, which hosts events, partners with gaming websites and other video channels, has teamed up with the Entertainment Software Association to revitalize it. E3 2023 will kick off in Los Angeles on the 13th of June 2023, though it is not clear at this point whether the big three will be attending or simply doing their own things, but it is still a ways off. GamesBeat is reporting that the 13th to the 15th of June 2023 will be business days reserved for industry personnel, and the 15th to the 16th will be Gamers Day, where everyone can attend. The Entertainment Software Association says that it would like to support and uplift partnered digital events and showcases. We will have to wait and see whether E3 2023 takes off. And it's interesting that they're really splitting it up because like the last couple of years before the pandemic, when E3 was trying to just reinvent itself, they let a lot of the, the public in. It was just an industry event where places like IGN and other big media outlets, maybe some big YouTubers or whatever as well, but it's mainly just the companies trying to get the word for their games out there, and also, meeting up with retail partners like, all right, this game looks interesting. How many copies of, this Call of Duty game will we need? How many copies of this will we need? There's the PlayStation 5 look like it's going to take off. We'll make sure we've got plenty of them. It was mainly just like a business event for that. And over time, with the press conferences, places like, the House of Mario and you guys were just like streaming it from home, seeing what's going on. And it become basically bigger and bigger until they had like a massive online audience. And I think it's interesting. This is as someone who's never been or never even set foot in LA or the States. So, but if I was there, I'd be interested in grabbing a ticket and going to just like the gamer day. So, because in the past, like, it was sort of a loss for both parties, having the public there and journalists and people doing coverage trying to, do their jobs. It for like the press, it made it a lot harder to get into appointments and see games and all that to do your job. But also, if you're there as the public, you have all those people like cutting in because they're more important than you. So it's good that they're splitting it up, and it'll be interesting to see whether the big three do come back. I kind of do suspect that Xbox and Nintendo will be there. I don't see why not. Nintendo's always been a very big supporter of the ESA and E3. They always believed in it. So I suspect they'll do a direct around that time and hopefully have a big booth we can see through online videos and that if you're not there. And I suspect the Xbox will be there too, but I think the big hang up is just PlayStation. They probably 100% will not be there. Because before the pandemic and all that went down, they pulled out anyway. They said, all right, we don't need to do this anymore. We're moving on to bigger and better things. So, yeah, be interesting. Keep an eye on it anyway, especially with Summer Game Fest with Jeff Keighley as well. Seems like a lot of the press are actually pretty impressed with what he's been doing. So, yeah. We'll have to see anyway. We'll have to see. Next up, I won't go too far into this. This is a big topic in itself, but from gamesindustry.biz, Saudi Arabia sets aside $13 billion to acquire a major publisher. And reading the first bit here, Saudi Arabia's Saudi Games Group today outlined an investment plan that will see it commit $37.8 billion to build the country's presence in the global games industry, including $13.3 billion earmarked for the acquisition and development of a leading games publisher to become a strategic development partner. And this is a big concern because we've talked about it on the show when the Saudi Games Fund purchased 5% of Nintendo stocks. And Nintendo, they don't have any sort of say in that. It's just public. It's up for grabs. But it's deeply concerning because, this isn't just a company in Saudi Arabia. This is very much the people in charge, the government. This is a fund set up to whitewash, their country's, unfortunate history. And this is incredibly, incredibly concerning because it's such a big amount of money as well that this could be, a publisher that you very well care about as well. Like, $13.3 billion, that's like Square Enix money. That's, I don't know, that's cheap Ubisoft money. That's a publisher you could very well care about. And say if it was someone like Square Enix, like, for me, like, grabbing Nier Automata on Switch, like, I don't want my money going towards, like, Saudi Arabia's king. I don't want it going towards a country that suppresses women. I don't want it to go towards a country that beheads people for being gay or trans. I don't want it to go towards all these things. And not only is the money directly funding that, if they do pick up some of these companies, it's all used basically to just erase all the terrible things that have gone on in that country. They're doing it with, golf at the moment and different sports. They're putting a massive amount of money up for basically big athletes to come over and do their thing. It's worrying. So just thought I'd bring it up there. There's plenty more to go into, but they're just slowly eking their way into the games industry, just much like Tencent and a lot of other companies are. But I think this one is the most concerning because they're hungry to not only make money, but also just improve the reputation of their country, and not through changes that actually benefit the citizens there either. So, yeah. Let's move on to the last story we've got here. Also from gamesindustry.biz, and also a little bit more of a downer, but it's important for me to bring these up on this Nintendo podcast. And it's titled "Ex-Nintendo Worker Details Labor Complaint." And a former QA tester says that they asked about unionization trend in July and were fired in February in retaliation. So the article reads, "The person at the heart of an April Labor complaint against Nintendo and contracting firm Alston Carter has come forward in an interview with Axios. The tester, Mackenzie, provided more details on the specifics of their complaint, telling Axios that they tried to ask Nintendo of America President Doug Bowser about unionization in a July company meeting. January, and Nintendo and Alston Carter fired them for it in February. Clifton said they tried to ask Bowser for Nintendo's position on the recent trend of unionization among QA teams in the games industry, but the subject was not addressed in the meeting. They added that after the meeting, Aston Carter and Anson. Yeah, that must be a typo. It says Anson there, but it was Aston. Aston Carter's supervisor told them it was down a question and said that in the future they would put any such question to Anson Carter rather than Nintendo. It says two different things here, but anyway. Clifton said they were fired in February, with Nintendo claiming the termination was for disclosing confidential information. The supporting evidence Clifton was given for the termination was a tweet they made in mid-February saying, "In today's build, somewhere must have deleted every other texture in the game because everything is now red. Just like pure red, it's very silly." Clifton also discussed settlement talks around the case, saying they wanted a letter of apology signed by Bowser, while Nintendo counter-offered to let them speak with the human resources team and be given a neutral letter of reference. Nintendo and Ashton Carter did not answer Axios' request for comment, while the National Labour Relations Board declined comment. So, yeah, this seems to be like an evolving story, and just from this one point of view where it has someone explaining why they got fired, and if that is the only reason, if it's not because of incompetence or any other reasons that being fired would be expected, this doesn't look very good, especially if it's just for us asking a question like, so how do you feel about unionization? Because it seems like, I think it's a great thing for a company not to need a union, but that's in just the respect that everybody at the company is being looked after, and that there is no need for an intermediary to step in to help with this stuff. But it seems like from the QA department and a couple of other places within Nintendo America, it seems like, I don't know, human resources, Doug Bowser, a couple of other sort of prominent figures at Nintendo of America aren't doing much about it. So it seems like they might need a union. But it's hard to sort of know just with limited amount of information. But if this is true, where it is just simply like bringing it up, like, how do you feel about it? And then it's all right, time to get rid of this chump. It's worrying, to say the least. Worrying, to say the least. So yeah, that brings us to the end of the news, guys. Nothing too just revolutionary this week, but it is what it is. Good discussions in there anyway. Looking forward to catching a Wiglett. So let's move on to the Red Coin releases and talk about a couple of games that came out on Nintendo Switch this week. And yeah, they're pretty good. So the first one is Tunic. And in this game, you explore a land full of lost legends, ancient powers, and a ferocious monster in Tunic. An isometric action game about a small fox on a big adventure. Stranded on a ruined island and armed with only your own curiosity, you will confront colossal beasts, collect strange and powerful items, and unravel long-lost secrets. So, yeah, not too bad. I really enjoyed this game. I played it on Xbox via Xbox Game Pass at the start of the year. Just a stunning game. It's also one that took forever to come out. So I don't know what that's all about. But it's a great game nevertheless. It's great to see it on Switch. You can pick it up for $42 on the Nintendo eShop. So not too bad. Not too bad at all. Next up is a game that I absolutely love. And anyone that hasn't played it before, this is the opportunity to play it now. So Life is Strange Arcadia Bay Collection. And this collection includes the original Life is Strange Remastered and also Life is Strange Before the Storm Remastered, which was made by a different developer and was really good. So the little description here is return to Arcadia Bay and experience 2 award-winning Life is Strange games like never before. Remastered visuals and animation breathe new life into this great cast of characters and gripping stories. Life is Strange Arcadia Bay Collection includes Life is Strange Remastered and Life is Strange Before the Storm Remastered. And it has multiple features, including visual remasters and improved character animations and etc. since the initial release on was it PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, PC back in the day. Really, Life is Strange, a fantastic story, and you play as a character called Max, and you've actually got the powers to rewind time, and you're able to use those to your advantage, and hopefully, change outcomes of what's going on, and just a simple kind of imagine like a Telltale Walking Dead experience, going around talking to characters, very cinematic, excellent writing. Characters that you fall in love with. Just an amazing game. I really enjoyed it, and it was one of those games that it had a specific moment in it where it floored me with what my choice ended up becoming. And it really goes to show that there was no black or white decision. There was an awful outcome one way, and there was an awful outcome the other way, where it was just not expected whatsoever. So Life is Strange Remastered, man, go and get it. Arcadia Bay, $60 on the Australian eShop for both games. Bargain. Even Before the Storm, where you play as Chloe, and it's a prequel actually, and it doesn't have Max in it, but yeah, awesome stuff. Go and check them out. So let's move on to Reggie's Rec Room, and this is where I want to talk about why I got into Nintendo podcasting, and this is a topic I wanted to cover on Encore at the House of Mario for a little while. Just do like a sit down, talk about why I got into it. And then obviously all the changes come with doing the podcast and all that. And now this is a solo show, and just what was going on in my head the last couple of months. I think this is a great opportunity just like to sit down and remind myself why I do this and why I'm going to continue on and go as hard as I can as far as continue this each week. So let's go to Reggie's Rec Room. It's been a while, mate. Let's go and say hello to our mate Reggie.
Hi, Nintendo fans. Reggie here. Thank you for your never-ending support, for giving me a mushroom kingdom full of incredible memories that I will never forget. Ever.
Thanks for the drink, Reggie. Oh, look, you're on the hard stuff. I'm on the Powerade. I can't have a beer. I'll be burping and belching the whole bloody show if I crack a beer, but you're more than welcome to. You don't even talk after this point, so you don't have to worry about that. But as far as I got into Nintendo podcasting, it obviously comes from a love of video games and Nintendo. That's obvious, but there was a while there where, most of my life I didn't know about podcasts. I didn't know that there was gaming shows out there. And there was a show on ABC here in Australia called Good Game with hosts Barjo and Hex. And I remember when I was a kid, flipping through the channels, there was Neighbours and really enjoyed The Simpsons that were on and whatever. But every now and again, I would go to ABC and there would be this show all about video games. And this was before I was online and going to IGN every day and all of this stuff. So it was really awesome to see that, there's like gaming content out there for you to check out. So it sort of got me thinking, that's like once a week and whatever. And I was sitting on my computer when I was probably 14 years old and had my iPod Nano, had my, iTunes application on there. That's where I put all my illegally downloaded music onto my iPod. But I noticed like a little section said podcasts. And I'm like, okay, checking out the podcast section and like, what do I like to listen to? What would I like to listen to? And it would be awesome if there's like, some gaming stuff I can listen to. So I type in Nintendo and just, back in 2009, how many Nintendo shows were out there? Not many. So the biggest one was Nintendo Voice Chat. And I'm sure all of you guys are familiar with IGN's Nintendo Voice Chat show. And this was the first podcast I ever listened to. And I just sort of randomly downloaded it off of, just off the whim. And thinking back to it, I think the first episode I ever listened to was the very first episode Rich George and Audrey Drake took over. And that's the time when I started listening to their show. And Rich George and Audrey Drake, they actually went eventually to work for Nintendo, which is... So did Jose actually later on. So they all seem to go and work for Nintendo, which is a little bit strange when you're covering Nintendo and you go and work for them. It's like, there's a little bit of conflict of interest as far as your, journalist job goes. But it was every Thursday for me, year 10, I think. And I would go to my photography lesson, but I always made sure that morning I put in my, opened my computer, downloaded the latest episode of Nintendo Voice Chat, manually moved it over to my iPod, and, made sure I listened to it that morning. And it became like a bit of a ritual for me. I really, really loved it. And it was great that I could, listen to people that really loved Nintendo content. I thought it was awesome. And also, they get games early and all that type of stuff that comes with IGN. So, listened to that for a couple of years and really enjoyed Rich George and Audrey Drake's take on things. I think Audrey was she's like really sweet and lovely and just like loved everything Nintendo. So maybe she loved it a little bit too much. I think like she gave every game she reviewed like a not literally of course, but most games like a 9.5. I remember I'm like, oh, look, calm down on some of these games. Don't know if that's a 9.5. And even like Rich George giving Skyward Sword a 10 out of 10. And then not long after going to work for Nintendo's marketing team, it's like, oh, that seems weird. Especially Skyward Sword. In what world is Skyward Sword a 10? I don't know. I remember being so hyped up by that though. But yeah, I really loved IGN's content, and back then there weren't a whole heap of indie podcasters necessarily, and I didn't listen to any back then anyway. There probably was. So I started checking out some other podcasts from IGN. And 2011, I was really interested in the PlayStation Vita. So I was interested in checking out the dark side, go and check out their PlayStation Podcast Beyond. And I remember thinking to myself, oh, look, I don't know about checking out Beyond, because especially at the time, I had some friends that were just massive PlayStation fans, and all they would say is just like, the games you like on 3DS or Wii or whatever, they're shit and whatever. I'm like, I'm sure we can all relate to the entourage of PlayStation fans. I love PlayStation, but oh my God, the fans back then, they let you know that PlayStation 2 was doing better than everything else. tell you that. So I'm like, oh, look, I don't know if I want to listen to the PlayStation show. And I tuned in. It was with Greg Miller, Colin Moriarty. And I just fell in love with that show. I really did. I thought it was fantastic. And at the time, I was, this would going into 2012, listening to these guys a whole heap. I'm like, I really would love a job at IGN or some video game website where I can sit down, I can write up all my thoughts and do reviews and previews and all this of games that I really would love to have early access to or play or whatever. And I think it was a little bit later where the guys actually left IGN to start Kind of Funny, which was basically doing the same thing, just doing all podcasts and stuff for their YouTube channel. Started one of the most successful patrons at the time, and just had a really great launch. And that was sort of the eye-opening experience for me, as far as you don't need to go and get a journalism degree. You don't have to grind for years to get a job at this website. You can just you can do it from home. You can grab your mate, you can talk about it, and hopefully, cultivate an audience from there. So we sat on that for a long time. Nothing happened. That was about 2014 when all that sort of came out. And Bryce and I, we did a bit of content together. We did some Let's Plays on a YouTube channel called Pow Pows, which is gone now. But we did some Let's Plays playing WarioWare and Smash Brothers, Mario Strikers, just the stuff we really loved to play back then. But it wasn't until must have been 2017. So I'd wanted to start a podcast for a while, and we did a bit here and there. And my good friend Seamus Mullins, he was a big fan of Kind of Funny and podcasting, and he's a good writer and everything too. And he was trying to get into the games industry, whether it was through the actual journalism side of things or the written word, or getting into actual game studios for marketing or development or whatever. He just wanted to be in the Australian games industry. So I remember at one point we sat down to do a podcast together. Didn't have a name or anything, but I was so nervous. And because I can tell you right now, sitting in front of a microphone like this, or even with someone else, it was not natural to me whatsoever. And I think I said this earlier in the show that this whole thing of me sitting in front of a camera or sitting in front of the microphone, it's just completely unnatural to me. But I think over time I got more used to it. And I was talking to my mum the other day. I was like, I really have or had no confidence. She's like, well, how do you sit in front of the camera doing the podcast stuff? I'm like, I don't know. I think it's just because I really wanted to, share my thoughts and talk to other people that, love the same thing. I think the obsession just outweighs the uncomfortableness when it comes to this. But yeah, Seamus and I, we sat down, and I remember freezing up. And this is just me talking to Seamus, talking to a good mate of mine, just enjoying it. So I don't know, that didn't turn out very well. I got no idea what happened to that episode of whatever that was. Might have gone up on Seamus. I might have to ask him. Might have gone up on Seamus's blog at some point or something. But we did the same thing with Bryce as well. Had him over to my place at my parents' place at the time, and sat down and did a similar thing. And I kind of froze up too. I was like, oh, I'm nervous. I'm just talking to Bryce in front of a microphone. So there was definitely some growing pains there. But going to RTX in Sydney, 2017, this was, before the Switch was launched, and Kind of Funny were going to be there. Greg Miller and Tim Geddes were going there. So I'm like, all right, we're going to make the trip to Sydney. It beats going to America to meet them. So went to RTX, and RTX, for those that don't know, is like the Rooster Teeth convention, because Kind of Funny are kind of affiliated with Rooster Teeth in some way. So they had the opportunity to go there. And it was this was probably one of the most important conventions I've ever gone to in my life, because going there and obviously, meeting people that have had a great influence on me for the past like 3 years at that point. It was just a great experience there, but also everybody that loved like them or was into podcasting and that also went there. And that's where I met like a bunch of people. Like you might recognize like, Buddy Watson, Paul James, Dylan Blight from the Explosion Network, Brendan White from the Hungry Gamers, which I talked about earlier, and like a bunch more, a heap more. And that's where I met them all, because they're all kind of funny fans. And some of them already had podcasts. Some of them started up similar times the House of Mario did. And it just filled up my tanks so much that when I got home, I'm like, all right, Bryce, we need to start this. Let's get it moving. And that's how we basically started doing the show. And it was difficult because I wanted to get the podcast going like before the Switch was announced as the Switch. I remember saying to Bryce, look, we should get it going before the NX is officially like announced. But we got it like a few months after the Switch was come out. But it is what it is. But I think what keeps me like going now is that, after starting the podcast, it's become like so much more than just talking Nintendo. I've got like a massive passion for like podcasting just in general, which I think is just a lot of fun. I think it's an amazing medium that I listen to like all day as well. So got a fair bit of experience as far as just being a listener, but it's so much fun to be able to put this out there. And like if you guys are still listening to it now, like an hour and 11 minutes in, I think that's an awesome sort of thing we can do. So yeah, it all sort of just stems from finding it like a love of listening to it and being an audience member for IGN and Kind of Funny and all that for years, and eventually wanting to step into it myself and meeting a group of people that like really, I guess, encouraged us and pushed us on and made us become better through, just like being with them. So yeah, awesome. So yeah, I think it's just a good reminder of like I'm here doing it by myself now. This is going to be a challenge going forward, and even like it's going to be okay on the good weeks, but as far as like the bad weeks go, when something's happened like that's got me down, or there's not much news or stuff to cover, and I've got to make myself interesting all by myself. It's like, well, this is why you do it. You do it because you love it. You love what you talk about. You love who you're talking to, and you love just the whole community of people that call themselves podcasters. And it's also another thing too, like I consider myself a podcaster before I consider myself like a shearer or whatever other job I do, hospitality, back when I did that. So if I want to be a podcaster, I can't just stop and be like, all right, well, it's coming up to like the end of the year. That's when a lot of people are busy. That's when they want distractions, put like podcasts in and just get through their day. And what kind of podcast would I be if I just disappeared and, let this show disappear? Don't know. That's what I think about anyway. But I kind of rambled myself through that. It's weird talking about myself. I always find that it's odd, but yeah. So I'm going to try this segment here, and this is going to be the test run for Sakurai's phone booth. I'm excited about this because it's something I've been wanting to do for a long time, is to implement questions a lot more into the show. And like I said in the update video, discussion, whatever you want to call it, on the podcast feed, this is going to be something I wanted to do for a long time, but we haven't had sort of, the group of people to, pull from each time. We've got like a handful of people. I don't want to be asking them each week for like a question or whatever, but you know what? I'm here by myself now. It's time to dive in and get some more feedback, make this a more community focused show. And I also got some audio I guess, memos to play from people as well, so we can implement other people's voices into the show. And once we get into a groove of things, if you've got something topical to talk about, we can actually interject that like in amongst the news and that as well. So I think that'll be good fun. So let's start things off. Let's get into Sakurai's phone booth, and we'll start from there.
こんにちは。大乱闘スマッシュブラザーズディレクター空の桜井です。
I love that one. So I've had that little soundbite around for a fair bit, but it's good to actually be able to use it. So the first, I guess, call-in some ways is Zach. So let's press Zach's and jump into it.
G'day, Drew. First off, loving the decision to keep up with the show in its new format, and wishing you and Bryce as well all the best with your next endeavours. Just keen, you're coming to Melbourne next week. Very exciting for PAX Australia. Looking forward to hopefully seeing you there. What are you looking forward to most at the return of PAX, and what are you hoping to see and do? So yeah, keen to hear your response, and have a great rest of your week.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for calling in, Zach. I really appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to seeing you at PAX as well. It's going to be a great time. I just had an encore all about PAX and what I'm excited for and all that. But the most exciting thing, like I talked about it there, is like I don't know what's on the show floor. I don't really know much about the guests and special appearances by all the important people. Apart from Shuhei Yoshida, that's awesome that he's there. I saw on Twitter that he's landed in the country and he's exploring Melbourne, so that's pretty awesome. But man, I'm just looking forward to seeing everyone. A lot of the friends that I mentioned the last couple of last hour. I cannot wait to see them, give them a hug, have a beer with them, and just catch up with everyone who I haven't seen in 3 years. And for me as well, it's exciting going to Melbourne and just being in the city and just indulging myself in I guess video game culture. Because when you're there, all it is games, talking about video games and catching up with friends, and that's what it's all about. Like even when PAX wasn't on the last couple of years, if someone said like, "Oh look, we'll catch up at the bar and the convention's not on, but that's okay," I still would have went. Maybe not with the whole COVID situation. Obviously, that's not a good idea. But as far as like a normal situation without PAX, I'd still make the trip at this point. I've got enough friends to really sort of enjoy that. But as far as the actual PAX convention goes itself, I'm looking forward just to going around the indie games, seeing if I can find something new that I'm like, that looks awesome. Can't wait to play that in 3 years. Stuff like Tunic and Hollow Knight and even Untitled Goose Game. That was some games that I first saw at conventions and went, all right, cool. And you see it like every single time, and then it pops up in a Nintendo Direct, and next minute the devs are millionaires, and I'm like, fantastic. So yes, Zach is actually going to be on our little Audio Technica booth recording on the PAX show floor too. So that's going to be a lot of fun. We'll hear from him there. So yeah, thank you very much for writing in, Zach. Next up, we got one from Wacko Jacko. We got a question. Goes for 13 seconds. So what you got to say, Wacko?
All right, let's get serious, Drew.
Oh,
who would win in a Nintendo All Brawl Battle Royale? I personally hope it would be Captain Falcon. But yeah.
Well, it depends. When you say like Battle Royale, all I imagine is PlayStation All Stars Battle Royale, and that was a great game. But I remember my PlayStation loving friends being like, "Oh, this is better than Smash Bros." I'm like, "Oh, that hurts me to my core." You saying that because I know how untrue it is. I know. Like seriously, in the crevice of that head somewhere, you're lying. You're lying. Okay. Because it's like, well, you can play as Dante and what's his name? Big Daddy from BioShock. It's great. But anyway, an all-out battle royale. So I'm imagining just a battle on Smash Brothers. I think that's probably the easiest way to settle it in there. And for me, Smash Brothers, my favorite character is King Dedede in Super Smash Brothers. And with that hammer, like he'll take out Captain Falcon. Falcon punch, that means nothing. But King Dedede will just suck that punch, just put that fist in his mouth and just smack him on the ass with the hammer. You know what I mean? Just absolutely take him out. So, so there's definitely King Dedede. Like Captain Falcon, he's up there. But he's always he's just become like a humor character now. I don't know how many people play as him in Ultimate. I know in Melee he was a menace, but he's also just that fun character. Like these characters just have their moves that are just really fun to pull off, and Falcon Punch, one of the funnest moves in the whole game. Just like Falcon Punch, just like audio and visuals. It's a great move. But what else we got? I guess Kirby as well. I know I'm favoring the Kirby characters here, but I think ultimately, like, even outside of Smash Brothers, if you just imagine like these characters going at it, trying to kill each other, like Kirby would just suck them up. And in an actual Kirby game, like you press down on the D-pad and you get their ability, and they're gone. They're dead. Kirby ate them. It's consumed. There's nothing left of that character. So maybe Kirby, I reckon, just suck up everyone and just stomach acid burns them all to death. So there we go. So yeah, next up we got Brendan Myers, and the next three have just write-ins. And this was a good question, Brendan. Thank you very much for writing this in. He says, with it easy to focus on the negatives, what are some positives from Nintendo in the Switch era? For me, the fact that Nintendo has released some games that have needed some updates to them, those games have actually ended up becoming games worthy of the price tag. And Brendan Myers, he was a big player of Mario Strikers in our Discord when the game came out, part of our House of Mario team, which quickly faded away. It was just me and him playing. But I guess the last couple of months or so, especially around Mario Strikers, it's been easy to focus on the negatives. Like that game was just a colossal disappointment for me. But when you say like, what are some positives from Nintendo in the Switch era? Like, they're mostly all positives. Like going back to 2017 with the introduction of the Switch alongside Breath of the Wild, that's a massive positive. It's a system that we all enjoy. It's had great games from Nintendo. Third-party support's been great. The indie scene has been thriving to the point where it's probably the second best place to play indies, apart from, Steam on PC, obviously. There are so many. I think even like, you can look at the negatives with the Pokemon series, for example, and going back to what I said earlier, I want to have a critical eye for some of these games, and it's easy to see critically where Pokemon Sword and Shield went wrong, but for me, I really enjoyed the characters and like the region of Galar. I really enjoyed that they introduced 2 sets of DLC, which gave you brand new Pokemon and a land to explore. I think that's a perfect sort of implementation for download content for Pokemon. Mario has been awesome on Switch. Mario Odyssey. We saw Mario 3D World with not Bowser's. I was about to say Bowser's Inside Story. What's that Bowser's DLC called again? But that was fantastic. That was awesome. I've played so many great indie games on Switch, like from Blossom Tales 2 this year, and that was a highlight for me. And even like the Dynasty Warriors games with from Koei Tecmo, like their collaborations with the Warriors series with Fire Emblem, and that was awesome this year. So just there's way more positives, which is great. I don't want to be too negative, but I think for me, like you said, it is easy to focus on the negatives, and for the most part, I'm able to weigh them out evenly. But I was really hurt by Strikers. I really was. I was so excited for that game, been asking for it for years. They announced it. I'm like, awesome. It's from Next Level Games. So my skepticism actually, it wasn't there. I was like, well, it's not made by Camelot, and unfortunately, I guess I put the label on Camelot. That's why tennis and golf, wasn't, all that great at launch. But I think it's just obviously with a different developer, being a in-house developer at Nintendo now, it's pretty obvious that's just how Nintendo themselves see their sports games and how they think they should keep them going. But even for Mario Strikers, man, like I'll try and focus on the positives for Mario Strikers as far as the Switch game goes. It feels good to play. It looks good. It sounds good. Yeah, that's I don't know. That's my positives there. So yeah, thank you very much, Brendan. I hope I answered your question. Okay. Next up, we got one from Nakachaka. And I noticed Nakachaka's been retweeting our stuff on Twitter a fair bit, and dude, I just really want to thank you for that. I really appreciate just any bit of support we can get, and it's as simple as that, guys. If you enjoy the show, share it. That helps us out a lot. So from Nakachaka, which Nintendo Switch games will you be buying next week, and why is it Nier Automata at the top of the list? Well, honestly, yes, it is a Nier Automata at the top of the list. I've been wanting to play Nier for a long time, and I didn't get it on PlayStation, whatever. 2017 was a busy year, and I was just focused on Switch stuff, and for many years I kind of just focused on Switch because that's kind of where I preferred to play. And honestly is now, especially with the baby and everything as well. Switch is a lot easier to pick up. So I'm looking forward to getting this. I'm just hoping that it just runs well. It won't be at 60 frames or have the graphical improvements of the PlayStation version or anything like that. But I hope it is good enough to play since it is an action game. So yeah, I'll be picking this up, I think. But apart from that, I'm not sure what's coming out next week. I'm sort of head in the clouds as far as what's been coming out because I'm trying to get through some backlog stuff, but also that's not turning out too well either. And last up, we got Lockliff, who has become a full-time host on Nintendo Drive as well as Seth Sturgill. So congratulations to Lockliff. I'm going to be listening to a lot of her going forward over on that show at Carpool Gaming. And she asks, who is your favorite Nintendo character that isn't a typical fan favorite? So I was thinking about this. I don't know how down the rabbit hole we need to go. Obviously, like Mario, Link, Pikachu, like these characters, they're off the table because you're just like, oh, my favorite Nintendo character is Mario or Luigi. No, I'd probably say characters that I really love that are off the deep end. Not even the deep end, just like the B side compared to the A side. Not that people don't know them, but I'll probably say like King Dedede is one of my favorites. I think he's just silly and dumb, and I love playing as him in Smash. Just everything from his body language and his just overall appearance, his weapon just with the hammer that turned to a cannon, and just all of this stuff. I think it's really entertaining. But like my proper actual answer is Pit from Kid Icarus. And I think like Kid Icarus Uprising, that really made me fall in love with the character himself. I loved like the whole aesthetic. I loved his weapons and that Sakurai introduced in Super Smash Bros. Brawl. But in Uprising, I really loved like the cheeky personality he has, the back and forth between all of the villains and the other characters he interacts with. And I don't think Pit gets that much love. I don't really hear anyone talk about Pit, but I'll champion Pit till the end of time. I love Pit. I think he's awesome, and this is going to be the most beaten dead horse of all time. But I think every episode or whenever this comes up, I'm going to say I really want to see another Kid Icarus game. I can't wait for Pit to make a return, and I think he'll be a great character to come back as well. It's been over 10 years now, so be pretty cool for that. So yeah, thank you very much for that question, Lockliff. And that brings us to the end of Sakurai's phone booth and also the end of the show. So I just want to say that, thank you very much for listening to the first episode in this format. I'll be listening back to it and figuring out what I need to change. I'd love to hear your feedback as far as how things went. I know like a few transitions between some like different segments and that were a little dry and all that, but it is what it is. This is my first time trying out this new format as far as like the pressure goes of this is how it is now. So definitely appreciate your time and everything. And if you'd like to participate in the questions or put in your voice memo to be a part of the show, I think I'm going to do a post from the House of Mario on Twitter each week. And you can basically reply to that with your questions, or you can reply to it with a video you take on your phone, and and then I can put that straight into the episode. I just put it through the Bluetooth on my Rodecaster, and I'm able to do it that way. So you can just do a quick video on your phone and post it to me under that weekly post I'll do on the House of Mario, at the House of Mario on Twitter. And also in the Discord, I'll leave a link to a Google Drive if that's easier for you. Just trying out different ideas. We'll figure out a good system to implement these going forward. But really appreciate Zach and Wacko Jacko who took the time to actually do a voice recording, and Brendan Myers, Nakachaka, and Lockliff for leaving me a question to discuss at Sakurai's phone booth. But yeah, please let me know what you thought of the show. I dare say I know in my head what I definitely need to change and improve on. But I'd love to hear from you guys as well. But yeah, that brings us to the end of episode 234 of the House of Mario. Really appreciate it. Go and check out the Discord. Check us out on Twitter at iDruby or at the House of Mario. And we've got some changes coming in the next month or so. I've actually got a photo shoot with my cousin, actually, who's a photographer. Going to be doing a lot more sort of branding changes to our podcast network. iDruby Studios. It's going to be changing my YouTube channel and everything. You're more than welcome to go to YouTube, youtube.com/iDruby to subscribe and all that. But I'm going to be pushing that a lot more once we've actually got the changes and everything's looking nice. So yeah. So guys, thank you very much for listening. It's support from listeners like you guys who make this house a home. But unfortunately, the time has come. The doors to the House of Mario are closed. I'll catch you later.